Oh, hi. Well, you've caught me on the Sussex Downs. You know, last night I was sitting, it was really cold. I was sitting in my house thinking, it's lovely to have a warm bath, central heating and a cup of tea with a kettle on. But I was feeling guilty about global warming, as I'm sure most of you viewers are. And today, I have discovered a piece of good news. Now, this house, looking like something off another planet, is called an EarthShip. And it was designed, get this, by an American. So, this is Oliver Hodge. He's a documentary filmmaker who stumbled upon these people. Ollie, how did you first discover Mike Reynolds?
I was living on a boat in Brighton Marina and heard through a friend that a group of English people had invited him over to help them design this house. And he and his crew came over here for 2.5 weeks and built this part of the building here. They worked for a few months before that designing the building, and then the English crew took over the job after that, and they've been building it for the last 3 years. So I met Michael Reynolds then when he first came over here 3 years ago.
What's this American like?
What's he like? He's a renegade maverick architect who doesn't always get along with the rule book. He never really has. He thinks outside of the box, and he's got into a lot of trouble over the years. But in a way, that's furthered his evolution of his houses, because the law and regulations don't often allow for mutations or mistakes, and he feels that he learns by making mistakes. But people don't like mistakes in houses, because when things go wrong you get sued. So that was really the line of our film. That was our narrative, is that it's about his right to fail, and from failure you learn and then you evolve. If everything stays the same, nothing evolves, and we'll die in 100 years' time with global warming. It's cloudy, semi-cloudy like it is today. We can have months and months of cloud, but this building stores heat for 6 months at a time in the tyres, in the thermal mass, because it's south-facing. It's got a double greenhouse here, which traps the escaping heat from the inner room. So the inner room maintains a steady temperature all year round. So what it means is that if you are using solar power and wind energy, you don't need to use solar power and wind energy to make heat.
Yeah, I mean, today, for example, it's like the middle of winter and it's a very, very cold afternoon, but it's warm here, it's comfortable. And vice versa, on a really, really hot day in the middle of summer when it's absolutely sweltering, absolutely baking outside, you can come in and it's beautiful. So really, really cool. And it does that by just having very, very big, thick walls. And it's a very basic principle. You just point your building towards the sun and let the sun do its thing. All the energy just shines down into the building, and then it's absorbed by the big, thick, sort of 6-7 foot walls. And it's not just the fact that the walls are really thick, it's the fact that we're cut into the earth here. I mean, you can see the way that we're actually cut into the side of a hill. All of that together means that we're enjoying the basic Earth's temperature, which is like 58, 60 degrees. And on top of that, we're building with waste, we're building with car tyres. We probably throw away about 48 million a year in this country. So we've literally got mountains and mountains of car tyres. So it's a really, really positive reuse of waste. And that is what this project's all about. It's about just showing how we can take all of the different things that society generally considers to be waste, just discarded rubbish, and just building a beautiful building from them.
You know, this building's built, it's designed 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It's state of the art. It's combining all the kind of physics and biology of the planet to make it work. And therefore it stores heat naturally with no energy being needed. The water in this building is actually collected from rainwater. So people are drinking rainwater, and it starts here, lands on this roof and gets channeled into gutters, goes down the gutters. Everything's tapered towards a little lean-to roof over there. That goes through a cyclonic filter into 3 big water tanks. This is where the water goes in from the roof here. Everything gets channeled down. It goes in through and comes out in a pipe through here and goes into these 3 tanks. So you could do that in your garden, you know. You could I mean, all the water that comes off your roof in your Victorian house or whatever type of house you live in, you know, you could easily channel that into a big tank in your garden and then put a filtration system on it. Maybe so it's not clean enough to drink, but it's clean enough to shower in, you know. And then the wastewater from your shower, you could use that to feed your garden.
Really, it's just a system of pumps and filters, and the water flows in this end and it kind of goes through all of these different filters. The main difference between this and the kind of thing that you would see in a conventional building is the fact that what we're doing here is we're actually separating our water out into two types of water. Most of the water that we use in our houses doesn't need to be up to a drinking quality standard, and yet we use drinking quality water for absolutely everything, watering the plants, bathing, flushing the toilet, absolutely everything. Here we don't do that. We sort of acknowledge the fact that only a tiny amount of our water needs to be refined to that of drinking quality. So most of the water leaves the system here after it's gone through a couple of filters, and the rest, the tiny amount that we're actually going to want to drink, goes through these last few filters at the end and is taken up to a potable standard. Yeah, after the water's gone through the water organising module, it flows through to here, which is the bathroom sink, and over to here, which is obviously a shower. And so you're bathing and washing just in rainwater, and all the water that flows through into the waste trap of the shower, for example, or out the bottom of the sink, then flows through to a grey water planter, and I'll take you through there and show you them now. And the idea is all of the wastewater flows through to here, and it actually goes through a stocking first, and it's got a rather sort of swanky name of grease and particle filter, but all it really is just a tight. And so that takes out hair and food waste and anything else really that you don't want getting into your planter. And the water flows through here, and it forms a water table underneath. And all of the roots of the plants go down through the earth into the gravel, and they clean our water for us just through natural processes such as evaporation and transpiration, just all the normal things kind of plants do. And the plants love it because we're south-facing, so we get lots of light, and they get lots of water, lots of really nutrient-rich water, so it's really, really beneficial for them. It's really beneficial for us because obviously we get nice clean water. And the water snakes through, and it forms a well just here, just under this bit here. And whenever we flush the toilet, we draw water through this pipe here, through this pump, through this filter, through this mechanism, under the floor, and through to the toilet in here, which is probably, I would say, one of the coolest toilets in Brighton, if not in the country. You could rule the world from this toilet.
You know, I've lived in EarthShips in America for probably a total period of about 6 months now, all in all the times I've been out there. And you're very conscious of leaving lights on and leaving the tap running or flushing the toilet too many times, because everything that you use in an EarthShip, you're making it yourself. You're generating your own power, you're collecting your own water, and you don't want to waste it. So in your own house, when you're just feeding off a grid system, you take it for granted and you leave lights on and you leave a tap running while you're brushing your teeth or whatever, and all of those little things, you know, you tend to notice a lot more when you've lived in an off-grid house.
Now, if you want to do something to help EarthShips, then watch Ollie's film. It's called Garbage Warrior. It's on in the festivals next year, and you'll learn a lot from watching the film and see how you could possibly cut your utility bills down to almost nothing.
So really anybody, if they wanted to get on and build an EarthShip, could do it for residency. This is more of a commercial building in the sense that it's a community centre, and it was built for a large variety of people to use as a social and community space. But it's also a show home as well. So in the last year we've had probably about 3,500 visitors, from the Secretary of State for the Environment, David Miliband, down to everybody else really. And yeah, just lots and lots of different people coming along. And I mean, in the main, I wouldn't expect to see thousands of EarthShips built everywhere, but what I would really like to see is the different ideas in it, the renewable power, the rainwater harvesting, the grey water recycling, building with waste, with car tyres, reclaimed masonry, reclaimed wood, whatever really, old bottles. All of these different things really can be taken and easily integrated into any build really, and that's what I'd like to see, and I think that's the effect it will have.
So there you have it. A house built entirely out of rubbish. with no utility bills, warm and toasty, and possibly something that could help our ecology in the future. This is Ben Cole discovering good news in a bad news world.